by Russia's foreign minister, who arrived on the island at the head of a multi-member delegation for a two-day official visit this afternoon. Being welcomed at Larnaca Airport by Cyprus Foreign Minister Erato Kozakou-Markouli and his own country's ambassador to the island, Andrei Nesterenko, Sergei Lavrov and his Cypriot counterpart entered a private meeting, after which they launched official talks on the issues already mentioned. This evening, Foreign Minister Lavrov is inaugurating the Limassol premises of the Commercial Bank of Russia and also presenting Limassol Mayor Andreas Christou with Russia's Alexander Pushkin Medal for the promotion and advancement of the Russian language. Tomorrow, Sergei Lavrov will be attending a working breakfast with President of the Republic Tassos Populopoulos, while he'll later be meeting with House Speaker Dimitris Christofias, who he'll also present with the Alexander Pushkin Medal. Within the scope of his contacts, Russia's foreign minister will also be meeting with the prelate of the Church of Cyprus, Archbishop Chrysostomos II, and high-ranking UNFICYP officials.
Good evening. You're watching the news from the CYBC in Nicosia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said his country will propose to the UN Security Council to pay special attention to the initiative by President of the Republic Tassos Populopoulos to promote implementation of a UN-brokered agreement in July last year, aiming to help resume negotiations towards a political settlement. He also expressed the hope that future reports on Cyprus by the UN Secretary-General will reflect the realities in Cyprus. Mr. Lavrov was speaking after talks with President Papadopoulos during his official visit to the island. President Papadopoulos expressed gratitude for the constant support and the principled attitude which Russia takes concerning Cyprus, noting that the Russian Foreign Minister is very knowledgeable about the Cyprus problem. The Russian Foreign Minister added his country welcomes the recent 8-point initiative by President Papadopoulos, which was addressed to the UN, adding that this initiative is a move, a very good mechanism to start implementing the July 8th agreement, which was endorsed by the leaders of the two communities and supported by the UN. Government spokesman Vasilis Balmas said today that the government welcomes this support from Russia, noting that remarks by Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Sergei Lavrov are helpful and supportive of the Cyprus question. European Union foreign ministers locked horns today over whether to renew their commitment that Turkey's negotiations with the bloc are aimed at membership. At France's insistence, the EU's Portuguese presidency removed any mention of accession or membership from a draft statement on enlargement policy due to be adopted by ministers. The EU opened negotiations on membership with Ankara in 2005, but French President Nicolas Sarkozy has said repeatedly since taking office last May that Turkey has no place in Europe. Britain, Sweden and other supporters of Ankara's bid were demanding that the 27-nation union reiterate its past pledge to admit Turkey if it meets all the membership criteria. Ankara's ambassador to the EU, Volkan Bozkir, told Reuters the wrangling in the bloc over restating a basic commitment would only deepen disenchantment in Turkey, reducing Brussels' influence in reshaping the country. The European Union is close to full unity in support for Kosovo's drive for independence, with only Cyprus insisting that sovereignty for the Serbian province must be backed by a UN resolution. Kosovo Albanian leaders said they will immediately start talks with their Western backers on steps leading to a declaration of independence, which a senior official said would be much earlier than May. Leaders of Kosovo's ethnic Albanian majority are widely expected to proclaim sovereignty from late January onwards. Serbia, backed by Russia, vehemently opposes independence. Russia Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stepped up warnings of the potential fallout today, saying that a unilateral declaration of independence could set off a chain reaction of problems around the world. Major powers in the United Nations Security Council are due to debate Kosovo on December the 19th, but Moscow has already said it would call for more negotiations, something the United States and the vast majority of EU states think is pointless.
Nicosia expressed satisfaction today over the conclusions draft finalised yesterday by the EU Council of Foreign Ministers in Brussels. Spokesman Vasilis Balmas noted that the Council calls on Turkey to implement the additional Ankara Protocol with all new member states, as well as the July 8th agreement on the Cyprus issue. Presidential candidate Dimitris Christofias welcomed the positions expressed by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov while on an official visit to Cyprus.
Good evening. You're watching the news from the CYBC in Nicosia. The Republic of Cyprus believes that the 5 permanent UN Security Council members should participate equally in Cyprus-issue consultations held within the framework of the United Nations, was the gist of a statement issued by the island's president this morning. Tassos Papadopoulos issued the statement at Larnaca Airport on his departure for the Portuguese capital in order to attend tomorrow's EU leaders meeting on the signing of the Watershed Treaty of Lisbon concerning much-needed EU reforms aimed at better dealing with the challenges of the 21st century and at fully utilizing the bloc's true potential. Meanwhile, and in reference to the European Council's conclusions expected to be adopted in Brussels on Friday, the President of the Republic said that these appear to be the best for Cyprus since the 2004 referendum and attributed the improvements to the diplomatic activity and good handling of the issue by Foreign Minister Kozakou. Cyprus, the President concluded, enjoys the sympathy and support of all EU member states.
Good evening. You're watching the news from the CYBC in Nicosia. EU leaders have signed a new reform treaty in Lisbon that is expected to greatly alter the way members govern themselves. The treaty creates an EU president and a vastly more powerful foreign policy chief for the Union's 27 nations. At the same time, the document scraps veto powers in many policy areas. It also reduces commissioners from 27 to 18. It is a replacement for the EU constitution abandoned following French and Dutch opposition. EU leaders insist the two texts are in no way equivalent. But the Lisbon Treaty incorporates some of the draft constitution's key reforms, and several governments face domestic pressure over the document. In a speech before the signing, European Commission President José Manuel Barroso called on European leaders to use the treaty to make freedom, prosperity and solidarity an everyday reality for all European citizens. President Papadopoulos and Foreign Minister Kozakou were among the first EU leaders that signed the treaty. The treaty faces a referendum in Ireland and must be ratified by all other EU parliaments. A reference to the so-called isolation of the Turkish Cypriots seems to have been removed from the draft resolution for the renewal of UNFICYP's mandate that is expected to be adopted tomorrow. Foreign Minister Kozakou told our station that the last time she was briefed, the text agreed by the Security Council members removed negative references on Cyprus and takes into account the concern expressed by the government regarding the UN chief's reference to the so-called isolation. According to press reports today, the draft resolution being discussed by the 5 permanent members only includes the part of the UN chief's report referring to the UNFICYP activities without adopting its political references.
Good evening. You're watching the news from the CYBC. The EU summit in Brussels today adopted the conclusions of the Portuguese presidency at the General Affairs Council on Monday. In the conclusions, it is pointed out that Turkey has not fulfilled its obligations in that it has not implemented the additional Ankara Customs Union Protocol by not making progress towards normalising its relations with the Republic of Cyprus. On another front, the EU offered Serbia a fast-track route to join in the bloc in a bid to soothe Balkan tensions over Kosovo's push for independence. But Belgrade bristled at suggestions the move was designed to compensate it for the looming loss of the majority Albanian province. Serbian Foreign Minister Vuk Jeremic insisted any such trade-off would be out of the question. A day after signing a treaty to end a long institutional stalemate, EU leaders switched their focus to challenges posed by the Balkans, a test of the EU's hopes of strengthening its foreign policy clout and to globalization and immigration.